I never allowed my son to enter the basement. When he married a gold digger, I installed a new lock. I never allowed my son to step into that basement. When he married a gold digger, I didn't argue. I installed a new lock with a code. 2 weeks later, while I was away on a business trip, my phone rang. It was Jasper. His voice trembled. Dad, she went into the basement. I froze. I've been expecting this moment for years, and the plan I'd prepared in silence finally began. I was sitting in a conference room in Denver, the meeting just ending when the call came through. Papers scattered from my hands as Jasper's voice cracked through the line. She knows the code, Dad. She saw everything. The filing cabinets are open, papers everywhere. She's furious, saying terrible things about you and Mom. Then I heard her voice in the background, sharp, angry, filled with accusation. She wants to talk to you. Don't put her on, I said quickly. Just tell me, is she still down there? No, she's upstairs now, pacing, on her phone, like she's looking something up. I closed my eyes. At 63, I'd been through enough storms to know when a real one was coming. But this was a hurricane I'd been preparing for since the day Jasper brought Amara home. From the moment I met her, I knew. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was just the kind of insight that comes from living long enough to recognize hunger behind a smile. But the way she'd looked at my house that first night told me everything I needed to know. Her eyes lingered on the chandelier, the hardwood floors, the paintings Margaret, my late wife, had collected over the years. Every compliment sounded like calculation. Every question about my business, my retirement, my estate, carefully chosen. Margaret would have seen it instantly. She always did, but she'd been gone for 15 years, and Jasper, my only son, had been vulnerable. Dad, are you still there? Jasper's voice pulled me back. I'm here, I said quietly. I'm booking the first flight home. Listen to me, son. Don't let her take anything from that basement. And whatever happens, don't sign anything she gives you. Promise me. I promise, he whispered. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, not from fear but from exhaustion. From years of protecting secrets, Jasper still didn't understand. That basement had been off limits his entire life. When he was a child, I'd told him the stairs were unstable. Later, I said it was my private office, full of business documents he shouldn't touch. None of those things were lies, but none of them were the whole truth either. After Margaret died, I'd spent months sorting through her things, her clothes, her art, her journals. But it was the paperwork that mattered most. Her will, the trust, the safeguards she'd built for our son before the cancer took her. Margaret had always been the smart one, calm, strategic, unshakable. She'd grown up watching her mother lose everything to a manipulative stepfather, and she swore that would never happen to her child. Promise me. Elliot, she'd said one night in the hospital, her hand trembling in mine. Protect what we built. For Jasper, there are people in this world who will see him as a meal ticket, and he's too kind to see them coming. I promised, and I've spent 15 years keeping that promise. Every cent, every asset, the house, the savings, the investments, all locked inside a trust. Accessible only to Jasper, not to a spouse, not to a divorcee, only to him. And when he told me about Amara, I tightened the locks. He'd show me the ring, eyes full of hope. She's the one, Dad. I smiled, hugged him, and congratulated him, then called my attorney that same night. We made everything ironclad, unbreakable. The prenuptial agreement had been my idea, disguised as standard legal practice. Jasper hated asking her to sign it, but he did, and she agreed, probably thinking she'd find a way around it later. She was wrong. 3 hours later, I boarded the flight home. My thoughts kept circling back to Margaret, how she'd foreseen this exact danger, how she'd protected our legacy, even from the grave. Now, the moment she'd warned me about had come. Amara had opened Pandora's box, and whatever she saw down there, I knew one thing for certain. When I landed, I wouldn't be the one on trial. She would. And Jasper, desperate to please the woman he loved, couldn't see what I already knew. Amara was patient, strategic, every suggestion, every question, carefully designed to pull at the threads of control. It started subtly. Maybe Jasper should ask me about my retirement plans. Was I planning to downsize? Had I updated my will lately? She phrased everything through Jasper, like she was just being practical, concerned about the future. But I could hear what she was really asking. When do I get access to the money? I dodged her questions, shifted topics, and made sure my attorney had double-checked every seal, every clause, every lock on that basement. When Jasper told me he was going to propose, my heart sank. He showed me the ring, a vintage piece, beautiful, and paid for with years of savings. He was glowing, vulnerable, so certain she was the one. "I'm happy for you, son," I'd said, hugging him. And I was happy for him, but terrified for what was coming. The wedding had been extravagant, Amara's masterpiece. A venue that cost $45,000. Flowers that cost $12,000. A dress worth $8,000. Jasper had struggled to pay for it all, too proud to ask for help. I'd given them $20,000 as a wedding gift, knowing most of it would vanish into wedding debt. Amara kissed my cheek and called me the most generous father-in-law, but her eyes told the truth. $20,000 wasn't the prize she wanted. The Real treasure sat downstairs, in that locked basement, inside documents she couldn't touch. After the wedding, her strategy escalated. She moved into Jasper's small condo, and within weeks started complaining. Too small, too cramped. They needed more space. They should move in with me, into our family home. Think of all the money they'd save, she said. I refused immediately. The house stays as it is, I told her. When I'm gone, it'll be Jasper's. But while I'm alive, it's mine. I'll never forget the flicker of fury in her eyes before she hid it behind that polite smile. Of course, Dad. I understand completely. She didn't. She just changed tactics. Soon, Jasper was repeating her lines. How it wasn't safe for me to live alone. How big the house was, how I might fall. Amara played the long game. That afternoon, on my way home, I got another text. She wants to call you. Should I let her? I typed back fast. No. Wait until I'm home. Don't engage. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, and appeared again. Okay. I could already feel him slipping, caught between loyalty and manipulation. Exactly where she wanted him. The plane landed at 7:43 p.m. I'd only been gone 3 days, but it felt like I was returning to a different world. By the time I reached home, both their cars were in the driveway. Jasper's reliable Toyota and Amara's gleaming BMW, the one she convinced him to co-sign for. A $48,000 car that he was still paying for. I sat in my car for a moment, steadying my breath. Margaret's voice echoed in my mind. You're stronger than you think, Elliot. Protect our boy. I opened the front door, but before I could step in, Jasper was already there. He looked exhausted, his eyes red, his hair disheveled. My son, age 5 years in a single day. Dad, he said quietly. Then she appeared. Amara, calm, composed. But her eyes were sharp as glass. Elliot, she said, voice dripping with sweetness. We need to talk. I stepped inside the house I'd built with Margaret, the home that had held every piece of our life together. Yes, I replied calmly. I believe we do. We sat in the living room like chess pieces, each of us knowing only one would leave victorious. Amara didn't waste time. I found documents in the basement, she said. Trusts, estates, things my husband knew nothing about. She put emphasis on that word, husband, as if it were a weapon. Those documents concern family matters, I said evenly. That's why they're secure. Secure from your own son, she shot back. Or secure from me? Jasper looked crushed, staring at his hands. Both, I said finally. The trust was created by Margaret before she died. It protects assets for Jasper's future, separate from any marriage. Amara laughed, brittle and cold. Separate from marriage. You mean you made sure I'd never have a claim to this family's money? I made sure Margaret's legacy goes where she intended, to our son. Dad, Jasper said, voice shaking. You should have told me. I had a right to know. The pain in his voice hurt more than her accusations ever could. You're right, I said. I should have. I was waiting for the right moment, and I kept waiting. The right moment? Amara mocked. Or were you waiting for me to leave? Hoping your son's marriage would fail. I was waiting, I said quietly, to see your true colors. Her composure cracked for a second. My true colors? I love your son. I've put up with your contempt for years. You're an intruder, I interrupted. You spent 3 years trying to manipulate him for money that isn't yours and never will be. Jasper flinched. That's not true. But his uncertainty betrayed him. Jasper, your father has been poisoning you, Amara said, turning to him, voice trembling with false emotion. He's been controlling you your whole life. I leaned forward. 6 months after the wedding, she convinced you to co-sign a loan for her car, a $48,000 BMW. You're still making payments. Jasper blinked. How do you know that? Because I pay attention, I said. Because I notice when my son stops saving for a home. How much is that payment, Jasper? $732 a month, he said quietly. And your Toyota was $285. I nodded. So you're paying an extra $447 every month because Amara wanted a luxury badge on her driveway. Amara's face tightened. We needed a reliable car. You needed control, I said flatly. And it wasn't just the car, was it? The expensive furniture, the vacations, the plans to renovate my home. She stood tall, defiant. I was building a life for us. No, I said. You were spending money that wasn't yours, trying to reach the money you could never earn. I took out my phone and opened an email. I spoke with my attorney today, I said. He confirmed that the prenuptial agreement you signed is fully enforceable. Amara froze. What prenuptial agreement? The one you signed 3 days before the wedding, I said. The one that clearly states all assets in the family trust remain separate, and that neither party can claim premarital property in divorce. The color drained from her face. She remembered. You tricked me, she whispered. I protected my son, I replied. There's a difference. Jasper looked stunned. Amara, you knew about the prenup. I thought it was just a formality, she snapped. I didn't think he was trying to cut me out of everything. Everything that was never yours, I corrected. Silence fell. Heavy. Final. Amara's voice trembled. So even if I stay married to Jasper for 50 years, I'll never be part of this family? You were never trying to be, I said. You wanted comfort, not connection. Security, not love. Her calm cracked completely. I gave up everything for him. I went to his work events, supported his career. You haven't worked a single day since the wedding, I said. You told Jasper you were looking for a marketing job. That was 2 years and 8 months ago. Where's the job, Amara? She opened her mouth, then closed it. Jasper looked at her, really looked. The realization was setting in. This is unbelievable, Amara said, her voice rising. You've been spying on me. I've been protecting my son, I said simply. She turned to Jasper, desperate. Are you going to let him talk to me like this? I'm your wife. Jasper stood up, pale. Amara, is it true? Have you even been looking for work? I've been building our life, she said, but her voice cracked. Building a life in my house. I asked, the one you keep hinting we should move into because I'm getting older? That's called caring, Elliot, she said sharply. No, I said softly. That's called positioning yourself. Jasper's hands trembled. I need air, he said, and walked out onto the patio. Through the window, I saw him gripping the railing, shoulders shaking. The moment he was gone, Amara turned on me, her mask on, her voice raw. You're destroying my marriage. No, I said, standing slowly. You destroyed it yourself, the moment you turned love into a transaction. Her eyes burned with fury. For the first time, she realized the game was over. You self-righteous bastard, Amara hissed. You think you're so noble, protecting your precious legacy. But all you've done is make sure your son will never have a normal marriage. Never have a partner who feels like an equal. A partner who is an equal, I said evenly, wouldn't need access to money she didn't earn. Wouldn't need control over assets built by people who died before she ever met their son. Her eyes blazed. I could take you to court, she snapped. Challenge the trust, the prenup, all of it. You could try, I replied calmly. But you'd lose. Margaret's attorney was thorough. Still, you're welcome to waste your money on lawyers if that helps you sleep at night. She stared at me with pure hatred. For the first time, I saw her without the mask. Not the charming woman who'd once walked through my door, Not the loving wife she pretended to be, but the truth beneath it all. Someone furious that her plans had collapsed. "This isn't over," she said through gritted teeth. "Yes," I said quietly. "It is." Outside, Jasper stood on the patio, his hands gripping the wooden railing so tightly his knuckles had gone white. The evening air carried the faint scent of the honeysuckle Margaret had planted 20 years ago. It should have been peaceful. Instead, it felt like standing in the eye of a storm. "Son," I said softly, stepping beside him. He didn't turn around. "How long have you known about her?" he asked, voice raw. "About what she really wanted?" "Since the first dinner," I admitted. He let out a shaky breath. "And you never said anything? Would you have listened?" He finally looked at me, eyes red and broken. "You were happy for the first time in years," I continued. "What was I supposed to say? That I thought your girlfriend was a gold digger? You would have cut me out of your life. So instead, you let me marry her," he said bitterly. "You let me build a life with someone you didn't trust." His pain hit harder than any insult. "I hope I was wrong, Jasper. I prayed I was wrong. But I made sure that if I wasn't, you'd still be protected." "Protected?" he echoed, his voice trembling. "You mean controlled? That's what this feels like you've been making decisions for me my entire life." "The trust was your mother's idea," I said quietly. "That made him turn fully toward me. Mom made a trust to keep my wife from accessing family money. Your mother made it to protect you," I said, "from anyone who might use you for what we built together." I reached into my wallet and pulled out a small, worn photograph. Margaret in the hospital, thin but smiling, holding Jasper's hand. "She was already sick then," I said softly, "but she was clear about what she wanted. She grew up poor, Jasper. Watched her own mother lose everything to a man who married her for money. She swore that would never happen to you." He took the photo in trembling hands. "She never told me. She didn't want you thinking about inheritance," I said. "She wanted you to build your own life, your own character. The trust was just a safety net, something to fall back on, not to live off." I hesitated before continuing. "The prenup, that was my decision. After I met Amara, after I saw how she looked at this house, I knew I needed another layer of protection. I should have told you my concerns directly," I admitted. "But I've watched you ignore my warnings before. Remember Sarah? The woman who borrowed $5,000 and vanished? Or Connor, your friend who convinced you to invest $12,000 in his startup?" Jasper flinched. "You told me I was paranoid," I said softly. "You wanted to believe in people. That's what your mother loved most about you, and what terrified her the most." The patio door slid open behind us. Amara stepped out. Her hair was slightly tangled, makeup smudged, eyes sharp and dangerous. "I can't hear you, you know," she said. "Talking about me like I'm some kind of monster." "We're talking about facts," I replied calmly. "Facts you've been avoiding for 3 years." She stepped closer. "Fine. You want facts?" "Yes. I looked at this house and imagined living here someday. I hoped we'd inherit it eventually. That's not a crime. Hoping is normal," I agreed. "Plotting isn't. Convincing Jasper to pressure me in signing things over, researching how to challenge estate planning. That's different." Her eyes widened. "I never researched anything. Your browser history says otherwise," I said coldly. "My network security is excellent. I've seen every search made on my Wi-Fi, estate trust loopholes, how to challenge a prenup, rights of surviving spouse in Colorado. You've been planning this for over a year." Jasper's head snapped toward her. "Amara, tell me that's not true." She opened her mouth, closed it, then laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "What did you expect?" she spat. "You think I wanted to live in that cramped condo forever? Watch you work every day while your father sits on a fortune and treats me like garbage." "I never treated you like garbage," I said quietly. "I treated you with the respect you earned, which was very little." Her voice rose. "Because I didn't come from money like your precious Margaret. My wife came from nothing," I said sharply. "She worked for everything she had. She never demanded comfort she hadn't earned." Amara blinked, caught off guard. She'd assumed Margaret had been born into wealth. "The difference between you and her," I continued, "is that Margaret built. You consume. I sacrificed for this marriage." Amara snapped. "I gave up my independence, my apartment, my life, to be with Jasper. You gave up a $600 studio for a paid-off condo, I said. That's not sacrifice. That's an upgrade. Dad, Jasper said weakly, but didn't defend her. His silence said enough. Amara's breathing grew heavy. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To turn him against me. To destroy my marriage. What you had was built on lies, I said softly. I didn't destroy it. I just turned on the light. She glared at me. You son of a... She stopped herself, turning to Jasper, her tone shifting from fury to desperation. Jasper, please, she pleaded. Don't let him do this to us. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can start over. But you have to choose. Me or him. The ultimatum hung in the air like a blade. Jasper stared at her for a long time. His voice trembled when he finally spoke. When we started dating, he said slowly, you told me you worked in marketing. You said you left your job because the company was toxic. For 3 years, I've paid every bill, and not once have I seen a single deposit from you. I had contracts, she said weakly. They fell through. And the ones before that, the interviews, the freelance jobs you said were coming. His voice broke. Amara, was any of it real? Silence. Then, finally, she exhaled, and the last of her mask fell away. I didn't want to work, she said flatly. I want to be taken care of. Is that so terrible? I thought you had money. Real money. I thought marrying you meant never having to worry again. But everything was locked away in your father's control. I've been trapped ever since. Jasper recoiled like she'd struck him. You married me because you thought I was rich. I married you because I cared for you, she said. And because I thought we'd have financial security. That's not a crime. It is, he whispered, when it's built on lies. His voice cracked. God, Dad was right. About everything. Amara's expression hardened. Fine. Yes. I wanted the money. I wanted this house. I wanted a life where I didn't have to count every dollar. Are you happy now? The devastation on Jasper's face was unbearable. My son, finally seeing the truth. I think you should leave, he said quietly. What? She gasped. Pack your things. Go stay with your sister or get a hotel. I need you out of here. Her fury turned cold. This is half my home, Jasper. We're married. You can't just kick me out. Actually, I said, stepping forward, the condo is in Jasper's name only. He bought it before he met you. You have no legal claim to it. She spun toward me. You looked that up too? I know every asset my son owns, I said. That's not control. That's protection. She looked between us, realization dawning in her eyes. For the first time, I saw something new in her expression, fear. If I leave now, she said slowly, I'm not coming back. Jasper met her gaze, steady this time. I know, he said. I know. The sound of Amara's suitcase wheels scraping across the hardwood floor echoed through the house like a death knell. It was 9:15 p.m. I sat in the living room, while Jasper stood in the doorway of his old bedroom upstairs, watching his wife pack 3 years of marriage into 2 bags. I could hear her footsteps, sharp, angry, moving from room to room. A drawer slammed, then another. She was taking her time, maybe hoping Jasper would stop her, beg her to stay, undo everything. He didn't. When she finally came down the stairs, she looked nothing like the polished woman who'd sat across from me earlier that day. Her hair was pulled into a messy ponytail, her face blotchy and streaked with mascara. She dragged both suitcases behind her, refusing to look at either of us. At the door, she finally paused. Jasper, she said, her voice shaking, I need money for a hotel. I don't have anywhere to go tonight. He reached for his wallet and slowly handed her 3 $20 bills. $60. Just enough for one night in a cheap motel. She stared at the money like it was an insult. $60? After 3 years. You have access to our joint account, Jasper said quietly. There's about $800 in there. Take what you need. What I need. Her laugh was bitter. What I need is for you to wake up and realize your father's poisoned you against me. But I guess that's not happening. She yanked the door open. Cool night air swept in, carrying the scent of rain. For a second, she stood there, a silhouette framed in the doorway, and I wondered if she'd turn around, try one last time to twist his emotions, to find a crack in his resolve. She didn't. She walked out. The door clicked shut, and moments later, We heard her BMW start and disappear into the night. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that presses against your ribs. Jasper didn't move. He just stood there, staring at the closed door, until his shoulders began to shake. Then he crumbled, collapsed onto the bottom step of the staircase, face buried in his hands. The sobs came, deep and raw, tearing through the stillness of the house. I sat beside him, my 63-year-old frame wrapped around my 35-year-old son as he broke apart like he had when he was a child. "I'm so stupid," he choked out. "I'm so stupid, Dad. How'd I not see it?" "You loved her," I said quietly. "And love makes us see what we want to see." 3 years, he whispered. 3 years of my life, wasted on someone who just used me. "Not wasted," I said firmly. "You learn something about people, about yourself, about what real love should feel like. That's not waste. That's life." He looked up, eyes red and wet. "You tried to warn me. You never said it directly, but I felt it. And I told myself you were just being overprotective. But you saw her. You saw exactly who she was." "I've had more years to study people," I said, "and the advantage of not being in love with her. It's easier to see clearly when your heart's not involved." He let out a shaky laugh. "Mom would have seen it too, wouldn't she? From the moment she walked through that door," I said softly. "Your mother would have known." Jasper leaned back against the staircase, exhausted. "Tell me about the trust, Dad. I want to know everything. No more secrets." So I told him. We sat there on the stairs, and I explained everything. How Margaret had spent the last months of her life planning for a future she wouldn't see. How she'd worked with her attorney to build something unbreakable. A shield. "The trust holds the house," I said. "All the investments and the life insurance. It's worth about $1.3 million in total." Jasper's eyes widened. "That much? Your mother was brilliant with money. We lived modestly, invested carefully. The house alone is worth $600,000. The rest grew steadily over the years. It all transfers to you when I die or when I choose to pass control early. That was supposed to be on your 40th birthday. Your mother and I thought that was a good age, old enough to understand life, young enough to still use it wisely." He nodded slowly, listening. I hesitated. "But after tonight, I think we'll talk to the attorney sooner. You should know how to protect what's yours." He wiped his eyes. "The prenup Amara signed, would it have held up?" "Absolutely," I said. "Even after 50 years of marriage, she'd never have touched the trust. She must have realized that last night. That's why she broke into the basement. She'd probably been watching me punch in the code for months." "What's the code?" he asked quietly. "Your mother's birthday," I said. "March 27th, 1958. He swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "Of course it was." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "Everything I've done, every decision, has been about honoring your mother's wishes. She wanted you safe. She wanted you free. And she wanted to make sure whoever you ended up with loved you for you, not for what you could provide." He gave a weak laugh through the tears. "Amara failed that test spectacularly." "Yes, she did," I said. "But better after 3 years than after 30. Better now, before children, before life became something harder to untangle." He looked down for a long time before whispering, "Do you think she ever loved me? Even a little?" That question broke something in me. "I don't know, son," I said. "Maybe in her own way, but not the kind of love that builds a life. Hers came with conditions and an exit plan." He stared at the floor. "I gave her everything. I worked myself to the bone to give her the life she wanted. But it was never enough, was it?" "No," I said quietly, "because what she really wanted was in that basement, and that was never yours to give." He nodded, defeated. "I need to see it," he said suddenly. "The basement. I need to see what Mom left for me." I led him to the door. The keypad still showed the last access time. 14:22 yesterday, right when Amara had finally cracked the code. I entered the numbers. The lock clicked. The air inside was cool, still, and heavy with the scent of old paper. The basement wasn't finished like the rest of the house. Concrete floor, exposed beams, but everything was organized perfectly. Filing cabinets lined one wall, each labeled in Margaret's handwriting. Personal documents, financial records, insurance, medical history, property deeds. But what caught Jasper's attention was the opposite wall. Shelves filled with photo albums, Margaret's favorite books, her jewelry box, her painting supplies. You kept everything, Jasper said softly, his voice trembling. I couldn't let go, I admitted. This was my place to remember her. The real reason I never let you come down here wasn't just about the documents. I wasn't ready to share this part of her. Not yet. He picked up a photo album and opened it. Margaret, at 25, laughing at the camera, her hair wild in the wind, alive, free, untouched by time. I forget what she looked like before the cancer, he whispered. I forget she was a whole person before she got sick. She was extraordinary, I said. Brilliant, funny, stubborn as hell. When she believed in something, nothing could change her mind. And she believed that protecting you was the right thing. She poured everything she had left into that mission. Jasper opened one of the filing cabinets. Inside were folders, trust documents, insurance policies, and right at the front, a manila envelope with his name on it. He pulled it out, hands trembling. What's this? A letter, I said. She wrote it 2 weeks before she died. Told me to give it to you when you were ready. I think you are. He unfolded the pages covered in her delicate handwriting. As he read, tears fell silently down his face. When he finished, he looked up at me. She knew, even back then, she knew I'd need protection. She did, I said softly. Your mother saw the world for what it was, both its beauty and its cruelty, and she loved you enough to prepare for both. He folded the letter and held it against his chest. I miss her so much, Dad. Me too, son. Every single day, we stood there, surrounded by her things, the remnants of a life that still protected us 15 years later. For the first time in a long time, there were no secrets between us, only love and the quiet strength of a woman who'd seen this moment coming long before we did. I want to apologize, Dad. For what? I asked. For not trusting you. For every time I defended Amara instead of listening to your warnings. For making you feel like you couldn't be honest with me. I smiled faintly and shook my head. You don't need to apologize for loving someone, Jasper, even if they didn't deserve it. He sighed. Maybe, but I do need to apologize for ignoring what was right in front of me. I was so desperate to prove I could make my own choices that I blinded myself to the truth. For a moment, silence filled the room, the kind that feels heavy but healing. I've been thinking about Mom a lot lately, he continued, about how hard it must have been for her, making all those plans while she was dying. She must have been terrified. I said softly. There were nights she'd wake up crying, afraid of what would happen to you. Afraid I'd die too, and you'd be left alone. She worried someone would come along and undo everything we'd built for you. That's why she created the trust. It wasn't about control, Jasper. It was about love. Everything your mother did, especially the hard things, was done out of love. Jasper reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn letter, its folds soft from years of rereading. She wrote something in here that I can't stop thinking about, he said. She said, real love doesn't demand access to bank accounts or property deeds. It's built in small moments, shared struggles, and choosing each other even when it's hard. She was right, wasn't she? She was more than right, I replied. Amara never chose me when it was hard, Jasper said quietly. She chose me when it was easy, when she thought I came with a fortune. The moment she realized the money wasn't accessible, she started planning her exit. But you learned from it, I told him. That's what matters. I did, he said. I learned what I don't want. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who only stays for what I can provide. I lifted my glass. That's worth a toast. He smiled and clinked his glass against mine. The wine was one his mother had bought 2 decades ago, a bottle she'd saved for a special occasion. Tonight finally felt like the right one. After a few quiet moments, Jasper spoke again. I've been thinking about the trust, about what we should do with it. What do you mean? I asked. You said Mom wanted me to have choices, to never be trapped by money or the lack of it. But I've built my own life now. I've worked hard as an architect. I don't need the trust anymore. Your mother wanted you to have security, Jasper. That was her intention. I know, he said, but I think she'd want the money to mean something. What if we used it to help others? Maybe set up a scholarship fund for kids who lose a parent to cancer, to help them the way Mom helped me. I felt a lump form in my throat. She'd love that idea. We could call it the Margaret Thorne Memorial Scholarship. Keep enough in the trust for the house and emergencies, but use the rest to give others hope. She'd be proud, wouldn't she? He asked quietly. She would, I said, because now you finally understand what she was trying to teach you, that the best legacy isn't money. It's character. It's love. Later that night, we went down to the basement to sort through Margaret's things. The first time in years we'd done it together. I want to keep her art supplies, Jasper said, opening a box of oil paints. Maybe try painting. She always said I had her eye for color. Take whatever you want, I said. This is yours now, not because of a trust document, but because you're her son. That's your real inheritance. He looked around the room, at her sketches, the old photographs, the tiny fragments of a life lived with purpose. You know what's strange? He said. Amara spent 3 years trying to access Mom's money, and she never once asked about her. Never asked what she was like, what she loved. She only saw the assets, never the woman behind them. I nodded. That tells you everything you need to know about her. He smiled sadly, lifting a photograph of Margaret holding him as a baby, both of them laughing. This is the kind of love I want in my life. The kind that outlives death. The kind that builds legacies not in dollars, but in memories. You'll find it, I said, now that you know what to look for. As we locked the basement door, Jasper paused at the keypad. Are you going to change the code? I thought for a moment. No, I'll keep it as your mom's birthday. Every time I type it in, I'll remember why all this matters. Not the money, not the property, the love behind it. Like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you.